Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football Dill, Oklahoma, Texas. And as much as the national media is going to talk about John Mateer and what Oklahoma can do without John Mateer in this football game, I think the bigger storyline is how does Arch Manning in Texas move the ball against this Oklahoma defense? Because as good as John Mateer has been, and I think he's been one of the best quarterbacks in the country, the engine of this football team for Oklahoma is on defense. This is one of the most dominant, imposing defenses that you see in the country going up against the Texas offense look, Arch Manning has not been good, and I don't think I'm breaking any news to the fans that are listening to this. I thought the bigger storyline coming out of that game against Florida, Texas's offensive line got their tails whipped. They could not run the football, gave up 6 sacks, gave up 7 tackles for loss. Still, I'm looking at this and saying it ain't going to get easier against this Oklahoma front that is currently sacking the quarterback 16.2% of dropbacks. I guess the best way for me to intro this game is that what quarterback do you trust more in this football game? You probably trust Arch Manning a little bit more, but that's certainly a conversation that we have to have. What defense do you trust more in this game? I think I trust Oklahoma's defense heading into this one. We'll get into it. I think a lot of really fun storylines to get into. Before we do, and as always, to the Oklahoma fans, to the Texas fans, hey, let it fly in the comment section. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Dill, I think we have to start with this Texas offense going up against this Oklahoma defense. Look, how does Texas manufacture points against this Oklahoma defense? I'm going to put you on the tee box here.
I mean, they got to get their run game going. And Arch Manning deserves a fair amount of the beating for this Texas offensive struggles. So, yeah, he is definitely not playing well. He is very not confident, it feels like, in terms of what he's doing. But the fact that nobody could run the ball for more than 38 yards against that Florida defense is a huge, huge problem. And the fact that their running backs really didn't run the ball at all, that to me is the bigger issue than Arch Manning right now. Because frankly, I look at what Sark wants to get into. It's a lot of long developing stuff off of play action down the field. And right now they're trying to push the ball down the field. And frankly, they did an okay job, especially in garbage time a little bit against that Florida team. But they can't get to their bread and butter because they can't run the ball. And
Dill, when Texas is at their best, they're running the football. They're getting a safety to drop out down into the box. They're working play action, and they're hurting you vertically down the field. Texas, their lack of ability to run the football, Florida was just sitting with 2 high safeties the whole game and saying, hey, try to run the football if you can. Texas just flat out couldn't. And I'm looking at this matchup and saying, does it get any better for Texas running the football in this matchup? I don't think so. Oklahoma, 2 yards per carry given up on the year. It's number 2 in the country. And I'll say this, that this is not the defensive coordinator in Brent Venables, and this is not the Oklahoma front 7 where you want to get one-dimensional. Because when you're sitting in those second and third and obvious passing situations, Brent Venables is going to cook. Here's a storyline in this game that not enough people are going to be talking about, Dill. Brent Venables probably 3 weeks to prepare for this matchup, right? They had a bye week, and they had Kent State. And I promise you, they didn't do much game prepping on Kent State, and now they got Texas. And so I promise you, Brent Venables has been installing this defensive game plan for the last couple of weeks, and they're going to have some things dialed up to really get to Arch Manning. And here's the last storyline I'll get into is Arch Manning's time to throw in that football game against Florida, 3.5 seconds. I mean, the kid's flat out not seeing it. The ball's not coming out of his hands. You cannot hold the football that long against this Oklahoma defensive line, because what I love most about their pass rush, still, they can challenge you all along that defensive front. Yes, it starts with R. Mason Thomas, and that's who the national media is going to talk about. Jaden Jackson has taken a massive step in his pass rush ability. Grayson Halton, he been that guy for the last year and a half as a pass rusher. David Stone leaps and bounds. I look at it and say, if Texas can't run the football and they're just drop back and throwing the football, I don't know if I trust Arch Manning. I don't know if I trust this Texas offensive line to hold up in pass protection either. I think the key here is,
I will say, as much as you just kind of beat on Texas offense pretty bad and gassed up Oklahoma's defense, I will say there's probably going to be some shots for some downfield hits. Like you
Yes.
look at that Auburn game, as much as Auburn really couldn't move the ball with any consistency,
Yep.
there were some shots on the field, down the field, I should say, that they
Yep.
left on the table.
Agreed.
That's a different football game if they hit a couple of them. And
Sure.
Brent Venables is going to do what he does. Like we've pretty much seen that. It doesn't matter what the situation is. He's going to be
Yes.
really aggressive. There's going to be some plays, and that has been one thing Texas has gotten to a little bit. I mean, Livingstone's hit some big ones. Ryan Wingo finally got involved and looked like maybe the guy we hoped he was going to be earlier in that Florida game with that touchdown pass.
It's
There might be
the
some plays
only way Texas stayed in that game. It's the only way Texas stayed in that game on the road against Florida was their ability to manufacture those explosive plays. And that has been a little bit of a struggle for this Oklahoma defense. Still, that's the storyline. Like, do I see Texas moving the football methodically down the field against Oklahoma? No, probably not. If they want to put up points, they got to be explosive. How many plays of 20-plus yards can Texas come up with in this football game is probably going to determine who wins this football game on Saturday afternoon. Let's flip it here because you're right, Dill. As much as I gassed up this Oklahoma defense, as much as I tore that Texas offense apart, I think there's some similar concerns for a lot of Oklahoma fans with this Oklahoma offense going up against this Texas defense. When I ask you, hey, without John Mateer, how does Oklahoma move the football against this Texas defense? Where are you going? Where are you pointing to?
Yeah, and it's going to be a struggle at the end of the day, similar to what I think it's going to be a struggle for Texas. Because
Yeah.
I think what Oklahoma's done really well and what their offense has been built around is the ball getting out of the hands really quickly into the pass catcher's hands, who are all Isaiah Satania, awesome with the ball in his hands. Deion Burks,
Yep.
and a ditto, if you
Jaron
will.
Kanik,
Also
he
very good with the ball in his hands.
Yeah.
And that's all predicated on John Mateer really seeing things quickly, balls coming out quickly, and giving them chance. Can Mike Hawkins, can he replicate that is probably the question. I don't know. From what we've seen from him in the past, not only in the Kent State game where it didn't quite feel like the John Mateer rhythm, if you will, but also what we saw from him as a true freshman, which I'll probably mostly throw out the window, but it's pretty much all we have to go on. I'm not sure they can do what they want to do on offense either, to be quite frank.
I think that's probably fair. The way I'm looking at it is number one, does Mike Hawkins settle into this football game? It is certainly a question you have. Number two, can Mike Hawkins and his legs give some juice to this Oklahoma offense? Because you saw a little bit of that. And again, it's Kent State, and this is going to be Texas defense. It's going to be a little bit of a different story. I'm looking at Mike Hawkins and say, if you want to move the football consistently, I feel like we need to lean into Mike Hawkins as an athlete. And here's the thing. It's not like you need Mike Hawkins I'm not saying you go run him into the ground. I think you can get aggressive with how much you want to ask Mike Hawkins to run the football in ways that maybe Oklahoma wasn't prepared to do last year when he was a true freshman. I think he needs to carry the football 15 times. And here's the question. Can that inject some life into this Oklahoma rushing attack? Because it's very clear that for the first 8 minutes, I'm a big fan of Oklahoma, right? The one Achilles heel has been can't really consistently run the football.
And the one time we've seen Texas on the back foot as a defense, it was from Florida, who frankly is the opposite. Like that is a physical team. It's a really good offensive line when they're on, and they have running backs who can really pound. And similar to like what we've seen with Texas in the past couple, especially in that Florida game where their running backs couldn't get anything, Oklahoma's running backs really haven't gotten a whole lot all season. So I think they're going to have their own issues, frankly, in terms of what they can do generating stuff in the run game. Because I don't know that Michael Hawkins is exactly the answer necessarily, because I don't want to go sideline to sideline with Texas. They're really athletic, especially at the linebacker spot. Frankly, what I'd probably want to do is just go right at them and try to pound a little bit like Florida, and I don't think Oklahoma can do it.
Yeah, that is – I think that's fair. And I think that's kind of the storyline of this football game is –
like who can get to something is kind of almost who can get to something on offense that can reliably work. And I mean, as much as like right now, maybe Oklahoma feels like they have certain advantages, I feel like Texas has the ability to get to some explosive plays. And that to me is the one slight edge I kind of see in this.
Let's get into the pick then. Oklahoma 3.5-point dogs here. What do you think the line would be with John Mateer healthy? You think he's worth a touchdown here?
Flip it.
Like,
Yeah.
you flip it,
Flip it.
Oklahoma 3.5-point favorites? I think I'd probably agree. Regardless, I'm taking Oklahoma to not only cover the number, Dale, I'm taking Oklahoma to win. I'm going to give you a list of reasons. Number one, do we both agree this is going to be a defensive shootout, or not shootout, defensive slugfest is probably the best way to frame that? I think
And
we both
Vegas is
agree on
telling
that.
us too that. Or what is it? He's sitting at about
47?
47. It's pretty low
Yeah.
for like high level college football.
Agreed. I agree. Right. So Vegas is telling us they expect a defensive slugfest. I certainly expect a defensive slugfest. Well, if it's going to be the better defense maybe wins the game, I'm looking at Oklahoma's defense and saying I'm taking Oklahoma's defense over this Texas defense. They've been dominant, and Dill, I think they have the ability to create more game-changing plays on the defensive side of the football as well. And this front seven's so active. Arch Manning's been very loose with the football. Here's the other edge I give. I think with Brent Venables having 3 weeks to prepare for this game, I know he's going to have a good game plan. I know Ben Arbuckle is probably going to have a nice little game plan too with Mike Hawkins. Lastly, special teams. Dill, Oklahoma's gotten some juice from Isaiah Satanga returning punts. And this is one of those games where I very rarely include special teams in my pick. This is a game where, hey, one good drive from good field position could matter in a big time way. One game-changing play on special teams could matter in a big time way. I think Oklahoma has the edge there too. So I'm going to take Oklahoma to not only cover this number,
Give me like how exactly do you see Oklahoma scoring in this football game? Like I don't
I
even
think that's
say
fair.
that like sarcastically, like because I look like can they be explosive? They haven't been wildly explosive even with Mateer there. What they've been really good at.
I'll give you a reason. I got one. Just came into my brain. What did Texas kind of struggle with Florida? The struggle tackling those pass catchers on the outside. Florida had over 160 yards after the catch. What does Oklahoma do well? Ball out quick to their playmakers and have them go make plays.
Frankly, a lot of that was predicated on being able to run the ball, get the linebackers kind of forced in, and then hitting stuff to the flat.
Oklahoma's never been able to run the football. They've been generating.
Why Florida was able to get their guy, why they were able to create so many yards after catch was kind of working.
Oh, that's fair.
Being able to run the ball a little bit. I just look Oklahoma. They've been one-dimensional all year. They're probably going to be somewhat one-dimensional in this football game. Realistically, how are they just going to be able to methodically work themselves down the field like they've been able to with John Mateer? I don't know. Can Michael Hawkins really replicate what Mateer is doing? I feel like that's like not giving John Mateer enough credit for what he's.
I agree. Yeah, and it does sound like I'm like hating it, like acting like John Mateer don't matter. I want to be very, very clear for the record. John Mateer is a very good football
player. The more
I
think about this, the more I almost think it'd be worth a lot more than 6 points, frankly, if John Mateer was playing. But
yeah, if John Mateer is playing, would you take Oklahoma -6.5? Probably. I think I'm close to that, right? He does feel like he mattered. I mean, it's a Heisman. He's the number one. He was the pick to win the Heisman before he went down with the injury. All right, so you're taking Texas then, I'm guessing?
Yeah, because I think they can hit explosives at least. That's been one thing maybe as like the season's worn on a little bit, as you've seen like Livingstone been able to get loose a little bit. Ryan Wingo finally got loose in that Florida game. I don't know. I feel like they have the potential to at least like get 30 plus yards in a play. I don't really see Oklahoma being able to do it. And then do I think Michael Hawkins is going to be that consistent where they can just march up and down? No. So
what's your confidence level with this pick? Because
I actually, it's
that's crazy. You're really that's nuts. You're taking.
I know it's stupid because I know Arch is not playing at a particularly high level, but
all right. Well, the boys are fighting here, and this game, I think you're crazy for having confidence in this pick because I do think it comes down to. It's going to come down to a play or two because I don't think there's going to be a ton of points scored.
See, that's why I have confidence in Texas for a play or two. I don't have.
That's why I have confidence with Oklahoma because I think they can create some game-changing plays in other areas on defense, in special teams. All right, we'll close it out there. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. It's going to be a fun one. It's not going to be the normal Oklahoma.
No, it's not old school Big 12 Red River.
Yeah, 100%. This is SEC Red River, 100%. All right, we'll close it out there. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.